Okay, so what if I told you that one single incident at sea, just one, might have been enough to push the world's biggest superpowers right to the edge of a new global war? It sounds like a movie plot, right? Well, today we're digging into a pretty sobering analysis that claims we're actually already there. So let's break down how this one event is, according to this source, completely reshaping our world.
Yeah, talk about a dramatic opening. This is the very first line from the source material we're looking at. There's no easing into it, no warm-up. It just comes right out and says the world is at a breaking point. And that one idea right there really sets the stage for everything else we're about to unpack.
All right, so the big question is, what could possibly set off a global firestorm like that? Really? Well, the analysis we're digging into points to one very specific flashpoint. Not a dozen different things, but one single event that it claims has thrown these superpowers into a really dangerous head-to-head confrontation.
And here's the core claim. This whole situation, according to the source, isn't about a bunch of complicated, tangled-up issues. Nope. It's about one thing. One single event happening in the Caribbean Sea that supposedly acted like the very first domino to fall. And that one push started a chain reaction that's now, allegedly, redrawing the map of global alliances.
Okay, so let's zero in on that catalyst, right? According to the source we're examining, this tanker incident is the absolute key. It's the thing that unlocks this entire global crisis. You could say it's the pivot point for everything else.
So here's the play-by-play for this tanker, the Bella 1, as it's laid out in the source. Step 1, it leaves Venezuela. Pretty normal. But then its communication signals are allegedly jammed and it goes off course. Next thing you know, U.S. forces reportedly board the vessel, and finally, the whole Russian crew is taken into custody. You know, when you lay it out like that, it sounds less like some random accident and a lot more like a very deliberate, planned-out operation.
And to really drive home just how serious this was, the source uses this quote. Man, it's powerful. It paints this picture of the crew being totally alone, completely abandoned. It adds this really desperate human side to what could just feel like another distant political chess move, you know?
And this, of course, brings us to two totally different stories. They're just fundamentally opposed. So on one side, you've got Russia saying, hey, our ship was doing legal business in international waters. This breaks international law. But then the alleged U.S. position, according to the source, is basically that all oil from Venezuela belongs to the U.S. and Venezuela can't trade it with countries like Russia or China. You can see right away there is absolutely no middle ground between those two positions.
Okay, so this is the moment where this whole thing explodes, from just a regional issue into a full-blown global realignment. The source argues that this isn't just some disagreement anymore. No, it's become a line in the sand, and it's forcing countries all over the world to pick a side.
And a huge piece of evidence for this whole choosing sides argument is the alleged involvement of the United Kingdom. The source claims the UK openly admitted to helping the US with the tanker seizure. And if that's true, well, in this analysis, that's a crystal clear sign that old friendships are hardening into these really rigid opposing teams.
So here's how the two sides are apparently shaping up. In one corner, you've got the US-led bloc with the United Kingdom and Europe, and in the other corner, you have the bloc led by Russia and China, pulling in nations from Eastern Europe. The picture being painted here is that the global power map is basically being redrawn into two very distinct, competing camps.
But wait a second, because it might not be that simple. The analysis throws in a really fascinating wild card: France. The suggestion is that France might not just fall neatly in line with the U.S. team. The source points to things like new tariffs on American goods and totally different stances on big geopolitical issues like Israel and Jerusalem. All of this hints that France could be looking to carve out its own, more independent path. So, with these new global teams solidifying, the next logical question is, well, where are they going to clash? And the source we're looking at identifies several key spots around the world that it claims are now primed for conflict. These places are becoming really dangerous flashpoints between the major powers.
And to describe the situation right back where this whole thing started, the analysis uses this incredibly strong metaphor. The Caribbean Sea, it says, isn't just tense, it's an atomic powder keg. Whoa, that's some serious language. The implication is pretty clear. One tiny spark, one little misstep, could set off a massive, catastrophic explosion.
And this isn't just about the Caribbean. The tension is global. This table here breaks down the source's predictions for where conflict could erupt next, and you can see it spans 3 different continents. Look at the pattern here. In Europe, the prediction is Russia targeting Ukraine. Over in Asia, it's China and Taiwan.
And then in South America, the source points to the United States as the potential aggressor against Venezuela or Colombia. It's a vision of a world facing multiple major conflicts, all potentially happening at the same time.
Okay, and this brings us to the final and honestly the most chilling part of this whole analysis. We're going to look at the ultimate conclusion the source comes to. Its final, dire warning about what happens if all these tensions finally actually boil over.
To really hammer home just how lethal a modern world war could be, the commentators make this absolutely chilling claim. The point they're making isn't just about the raw power of the weapon itself, it's about the terrifying, almost unbelievable speed at which a global conflict could unfold today.
Let's just let that sink in for a second. 20 minutes. According to this source, that's it. That's less time than it takes to order a pizza. It's the alleged flight time between someone pushing a button and a global catastrophe. At that point, speed itself becomes the ultimate weapon.
And the source really does not hold back when describing the aftermath. We're talking about truly apocalyptic stuff. Buildings melting, rivers drying up, oceans emptying, humanity taking its final breaths. The ultimate stake here, as they lay it out, isn't about winning or losing a war. It's about whether humanity itself survives.
And so, we're left with this one really provocative question that kind of gets to the heart of this entire analysis. Are we just heading into a new Cold War? A tense standoff between superpowers? Or, and this is the scary part, as this source suggests, are we actually watching the prelude to a real global hot war? That's the critical question we're left to think about.